Hello everyone, welcome to your Talking Newspaper for Friday 12th of October 2018. My name is Howard.
And I'm Madeline. And we'll start with the Society news for Friday the 12th of October. On Tuesday, Laura will be attending our Place drop-in session, which is held at the Wight Sports Centre in Mower Place, Freshwater, between 10 o'clock and 12 noon. She will have information about the Society, the clubs and activities available, as well as demonstrations of some low vision aids available. Come along and say hello and enjoy a free tea or coffee. The Ryde Swimming Group are meeting on Tuesday the 16th of October in Ryde at the Waterside Pool. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the Society first to notify us of your swimming ability. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House next Wednesday, the 17th of October, between 10 o'clock and 11:30. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea, as well as a piece of cake. We will also be holding our weekly low vision drop-in event from 10 till 12 to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment. The Wednesday social group will be meeting at 2 o'clock at Millbrook House. The entertainment this week is Sue Mansfield, who will be talking about her life as a British Airways crew member. The group lasts approximately 45 minutes, which is then followed by tea or coffee and cake. The Thursday social group are meeting on Thursday the 18th of October at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 until 2. You can knit or just have a chat. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics. The Striders group will be meeting on Friday the 19th of October, and please note the change of week this month. The walk is circular, starting at Appleford Road, Chale, is approximately 5.5 miles long and will take nearly 3 hours. The minibus will leave Millbrook House at 10 o'clock. Lunch will be at the Checkers at 1:15. Please contact the Society if you would like to join the Striders group.
Other news now. Sight for Wight takes pleasure in inviting members to a Sight for Wight Members Forum on Monday 15th of October from 11 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. at Millbrook House. This will be followed by a technology discussion from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. An area of interest identified by many members who participated in the 2017 survey was keeping abreast of technology. In such a rapidly developing area, there is, unsurprisingly, a growth in inexpensive specialist equipment and software designed specifically for the visually impaired community. However, there is equally a growing range of free or low-cost software and apps that can be used on a whole range of laptops, tablets, and smartphones to assist with myriad tasks. Following on from some discussion at the last members' forum, it was agreed that we would hold a technology discussion to simply identify the range of software and apps that members currently use. We hope to produce a document which could be helpful to other members, identifying the uses, pros and cons, together with approximate costs associated with the technology, software or apps identified. We welcome all members who would like to contribute to this discussion. For those interested but unable to join us in person on Monday, please call or email our Members Services Manager to be kept abreast of these discussions. If you'd like to share your experience of using various forms of technology that might be of interest and value to other VI members, there's a form available from us in either large print or electronically produced. Our overall aim is to produce and thereafter add to a directory of what's available, at what cost, to enable various tasks and how user-friendly or otherwise it's found to be. The discussion on Monday 15th between 1300 hours and 1500 hours will be chaired by Chief Executive Miriam Tong. Island Con. Site for Wight will be attending Island Con at Cowes Enterprise College on Saturday 20th and Sunday 21st of October, where we'll be not only demonstrating some of our low vision equipment and simulated specs, but we'll also have a variety of Doctor Who officially licensed props, including Cyberman helmets and a full-size Dalek to have your photo taken with. We look forward to seeing you.
And moving on to the scaffolding news. And this is a list of known footway obstructions for works, including scaffolding or hoarding. We are unable to include end dates, as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. In the Bay and Ventnor area, there is currently scaffolding at Premier Inn 1-9 Esplanade Sandown, 11A and 11B St John's Road Sandown, the Toymaster 103 High Street Sandown, the scaffolding up in Albion Road, Sandown Library 119 High Street Sandown, 1 Melville Street Sandown, the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road Ventnor, Boniface Road and into Trinity Road Ventnor, Clive Barber's Jewellers High Street Ventnor, Ivy Bank Marlborough Road Ventnor with associated road closure, 7A Spring Hill Ventnor, Hurst's 4 High Street Ventnor. And there are currently hoardings at Premier Inn 1-9 Esplanade Sandown. And there are currently skips at 32 Foreland Road, Bembridge.
In the Cowes area, there's currently scaffolding at 93 High Street, Cowes, behind the hoarding. Cowes Library, Beckford Road, Cowes, also up in West Hill Road. There is currently a cherry picker at Brunswick Court, Medina Road, Cowes. There are currently hoardings at 93 High Street, Cowes. There are currently skips at Ruby Cottage, Fellows Road, Cowes, 22 Woodvale Road, Gurnard.
In the Newport area, there is currently scaffolding at Jewson's, Trafalgar Road, Newport, Santander, 26 St James's Street, Newport, scaffold also up around the corner in Pyle Street, Key Cottage, 12 Key Street, Newport, 44 Key Street, Newport, 20 St Thomas's Square, Newport, 34 Albert Street, Newport, 50 New Street, Newport, 75 St James Street, Newport, 2-8 Carisbrooke Road, Newport. There is currently a cherry picker at Guildhall High Street, Newport, in the taxi rank. There are currently skips at 38 Highfield Road, Newport, and 12 Key Street, Newport.
In the Ryde area, there's currently scaffolding at My Dentist, 10-11 Cross Street, Ryde, Boots, 170 High Street, Ryde, Hills Court, High Street and Newport Street, Ryde, 47 George Street, Ryde, 12A High Street, Ryde, 91 High Street, Ryde, 43 Nelson Street, Ryde, that's on hold, Ivy Home, Upper Green Road, St Helens. There are currently skips at 27 Daniel Street, Ryde.
In the West Wight area, there is currently scaffolding at Duo 86 Avenue Road, Freshwater. There are currently skips at The Green, Lynch Lane, Calbourne.
And this week's In Touch, Orbit Reader 20, Choroideremia Breakthrough. The long-delayed Orbit Reader is finally here. What's in store for the RNIB's foray into an affordable, refreshable Braille device? Show more. 2 years ago, the RNIB hailed the Orbit Reader 20 a revolutionary development in affordable, refreshable Braille. But despite assurances it would be available within 6 months, it took a long time coming. But it's here now, and we put our questions to the RNIB's Director of Services, David Clark. And there's been a gene therapy breakthrough in the treatment of the rare eye condition, choroideremia. Trials involving the injection of a virus containing a missing gene have been ongoing since 2011 at the Oxford Eye Hospital, and the newly published results show a significant gain in vision across the group of patients as a whole. We talked to Professor Robert McLaren about his study, now led by Night Star Therapeutics, and Joe Pepper, one of the patients, tells us how it transformed his life. The programme is presented by Peter Wight and produced by Kevin Corr.
And we now move on to the County Press headlines for the 12th of October. And there are two headlines. First, horror over Gothic hotel, and reaction to horror over Gothic hotel. A Shanklin hotel has had a formal complaint lodged against it after painting the entire frontage in homage to its alternative Gothic theme. The Nightingale Hotel on the cliff top along Queen's Road has been adorned with large-scale artwork created by Tony Trowbridge to make a statement about the niche market it is appealing to. Councillor Chris Quirk, Isle of Wight Council ward member for Shanklin South, said a local resident had lodged an official complaint with the conservation officer as the hotel fell within Shanklin's conservation area. And he said he had never had so many complaints on a single issue since becoming a councillor. Dino Joachim, who runs the hotel with his wife, Arena, was defiant this week. He said, "This is going to be our cover photo for all our online channels, website and social media. Is the message loud and clear now? The hotel is what it is. If you like it, book and come again. If not, we don't care." Lucky no one's called to complain. The hotel specialises in Gothic and Halloween events, and upcoming events include a bloody epic Halloween weekend, 7 Deadly Sins burlesque party and fetish February. Dino explained, "We bought the hotel 3 years ago and inherited the elderly guests from when it was Keats Green Hotel, but they didn't like my tattoo or the decor we introduced, so the second year they didn't come back. We decided to build up the hotel from scratch, went more Gothic and really expressed ourselves. However, some guests still booked, and they didn't like the dripping candles and the painting of a woman wearing a gimp mask. I asked them why they booked to stay in a Gothic hotel, as it is obvious from our website what we are about. It made me think we had to express ourselves even more so people know, hence painting the hotel. We are doing really well this year, and most of the money is being put back into the hotel, redecorating it constantly. Some hotels in Shanklin look like they are decaying and the squatters have moved in, whereas ours is a destination in itself." Councillor Quirk said, "The hotel owner should have got the agreement of the conservation officer before making significant external changes. I can confirm they did not. I think for a hotel in an area renowned for its historical associations, this is inappropriate. It is just being done to shock. The hotel owner may see it as a bit of fun, but it has offended a lot of people."
There was a mixed reaction to the transformation of the hotel. Barry James, 75, of Collingwood Road, Shanklin, phoned the County Press to raise his concerns. "It stands out like a sore thumb and is really not in keeping with the area," he said. "When they first turned it from Keats Green Hotel to the Nightingale, it was in tribute to Keats's poem, and it was fine and fitted in, but now it's gone completely over the top. Shanklin is a family holiday town, and people with children walk past, but looking at that is enough to scare the wits out of them. It shows a lack of respect to 99% of the population. It's anathema." On the County Press website, Susanna Thornton commented, "There are far worse looking hotels around, some of which you'd have to consider carefully before frequenting. This one may only appeal to certain clientele, but it generates island revenue for other businesses too." On Facebook, David Coombs said, "Not to everyone's taste, but that's entirely the point. Being totally different from all the other hotels and guest houses is a smart idea." Kerry Benford said, "It's always nice to see something different going on, and by the sounds of things, they're bringing much needed money to the island, so good luck to them." B. Farrelly said, "At least there's pride being taken. I wish them the best. The hotel business is tough on the island, and this family are offering their guests an experience. Going niche is a wise strategy. It also broadens choices for tourists coming to the island, so it should benefit the town." Gavin Taylor said, "About time someone had the guts to blow the cobwebs off this old people's retirement island." Susan Gotts-Warner said, "It's awful, real rubbish. A classy hotel doesn't do this. We used to go there when it was Keats Green, but wouldn't go there now."
Woman stole from vulnerable friend, 77. A Crown Court judge told a Ventnor woman she had lost her good character for a mean offence after she admitted stealing more than £2,000 from an elderly and vulnerable friend. Kerry Reynolds, 41, of Albert Street, admitted withdrawing £2,120 from the 77-year-old's bank account. Between December the 11th, 2017 and March the 14th, 2018, cash had disappeared from the man's account, and he asked another friend to help him find out where it had gone. It had gone in a number of withdrawals from between £100 and £400 from ATMs. Inquiries centred on Reynolds, who had been given the older man's PIN number to make a legitimate withdrawal for him, said Kelly Brocklehurst, prosecuting. She attended a voluntary police interview and made full admissions. The court was told she had a previous clean record. Representing Reynolds, Oscar Vincent said his client was vulnerable and had suffered from an abusive and chaotic childhood. He said, "It is clear her drug use was a way of self-medication to block out that fact." Recorder Jane Rowley said she accepted Reynolds was extremely remorseful. She jailed her for 4 months, suspended for 18 months, and imposed a victim charge.
Ambitious plans have been announced for a new tourist attraction, a farm shop and cafe selling island produce surrounded by nature trails and pick-your-own-fruit patches. Looking to secure the future of the business after Brexit, A.E. Brown Farms has submitted a planning application for a tourism, leisure and retail destination at Hale Common, Arreton. Primarily arable and vegetable farmers, the Brown family also own Farmer Jack's shop at Arreton Barns. However, they'd outgrown the site, which has no room for expansion, and hope to create a bigger, better farm shop, butcher's counter and cafe at the Hale Common site. According to the planning application submitted to the Isle of Wight Council, the applicant has a very strong vision. The proposed farm, retail outlet and cafe will provide a rural shopping and eating destination. There's been a growth in artisan food producers on the Isle of Wight, leading to food tourism and local interest, and the development of the business will allow this to evolve. The proposal aims to create an on-brand farm experience within a traditional setting, but via a contemporary approach to symbolise a modern and innovative farm capable of securing its sustainability into the 21st century. The brand and experience will educate and promote the farming industry. The applicants want to act as food champions for suppliers to assist in local food and farm industries. The proposal includes plans for surrounding nature trails adjacent to cycle paths, a potager garden where visitors can pick their own fruit and vegetables, water-based activities on the surrounding lakes, and parking. Ben Brown, 42, whose father David and uncles Chris and Andrew Brown own the company, estimated the project would cost around £1.5 million. He said, "People travel for food tourism. Look at places like Devon and Cornwall, and the island is such a beautiful place with fantastic local produce. More people are staycationing, and we're responding to that. All farmers are worried about Brexit. We're trying to make sure once our European subsidies disappear, we can keep going." A.E. Brown has also negotiated a deal with Isle of Wight Grain Storage Limited, which plans to buy land at the Hale Common site for a new storage and processing facility. Farmer Jack's will remain open for at least 2 years until the new attraction opens, providing it wins planning permission, at which stage a decision will be taken on its long-term future. Comments on the application can be made at www.iwight.com until October 26th.
And another article on Isle of Wight grain storage. New plants to help farmers. Isle of Wight farmers could benefit from multi-million-pound plans for a grain storage and processing plant, providing the scheme wins planning permission. Farming cooperative Isle of Wight Grain Storage hopes to build the facility at Halecombe and Arreton after negotiating a deal with landowner A.E. Brown Farms. Based at Medina Wharf Cows, the cooperative cleans, dries, stores and sells grain for its 56 farmer members, handling 90% of grain grown on the island. It has no room to expand at its current leased site. As an owner-occupier at Arreton, the company could start producing animal feed for island livestock farmers and bird feed. Surplus heat from neighbouring glasshouses could be used to dry the grain, saving energy, and the facility would be closer to members, reducing traffic. Manager Pete Thomas said, "A larger site and new equipment would help the company secure its future after Brexit. This is all about benefiting our members. They pay us each year and any profit is redistributed to them," he said. Brexit has already had an effect. The pound is weak and grain is too expensive to export to the EU. 2 years ago, EU exports were a big part of our business. I think people are generally pretty scared about what will happen. With this project, we are taking control of our future and creating our own markets. The company plans to apply for an EU grant, which would cover around 40% of the total project cost, estimated at £5 million. According to the planning application, it will help secure the future of arable farmers on the island. It will support livestock farmers by supplying locally produced feed, not shipped to the island, reducing their costs. Without working together and aggregating their crops, farmers would receive a much reduced price for them, making it uneconomic to farm on the island. Planning permission has been sought for a large plant comprising 32 galvanised steel silos, 2 grain dryers, 2 conveyors and a weighbridge, plus associated buildings and machinery. MP Bob Seeley, who recently visited Isle of Wight grain storage to discuss the government's agricultural bill, said, "It was good to hear about the plans to diversify and expand the business. It's a good example of what can be achieved when working together on the island for the good of the island." Comments on the application can be made at www.iwight.com until October the 26th.
Could this be how the Island Line passengers will travel in the future? A groundbreaking train, totally refurbished from existing rolling stock, could be in the running to replace the ageing 1930s underground stock on the Isle of Wight's 8.5-mile route. Viva Rail, based in Warwickshire, has been operating for 4 years and produces completely refurbished trains from ex-London underground stock dating from the 1980s. The new Class 230s can either run on third rail, diesel or battery power, or combinations of motive power. They're already set to be introduced to the Marston Vale line, formerly known as the Varsity line, between Oxford and Cambridge in December this year. Viva Rail has submitted proposals which have been passed to the Department for Transport, saying its trains would be suitable for Island Line and would fit through tunnels and under bridges along the route. An article in the October edition of Modern Railway magazine also speculates the introduction of the Class 230s is the preferred option for First Group, which is a majority stakeholder of South Western Railways, which runs the Island Line. A decision is expected at the end of this year.
Youth team priced out by hike in pitch fees. A youth football team has slammed the Island Free School for almost doubling its pitch hire fees, describing the move as an attack on the very children the school should be supporting. Rue Valley Youth FC was charged £3,400 to use the school's floodlit AstroTurf pitch last winter, but was told that the cost would rocket this year to £6,000, effectively pricing the club out of its home for the past decade. The club has now joined forces with Ventnor FC, itself facing a £1,000 bill to train on the AstroTurf, to raise £2,000 for floodlights at Ventnor's Watcombe Bottom pitch, so both teams can train there during the winter. The Island Free School took over the Rue Valley facilities from the Isle of Wight Council when they were threatened with closure. They are well used and rented by a number of sports groups. Rue Valley Youth FC has 122 players, boys and girls, aged between 6 and 16, who train on the AstroTurf during the winter and on the adjacent playing fields during the summer, the cost of which has also risen. Previously free, the club has been quoted a fee of £20 an hour, equating to £60 some weekends. Free School head teacher Steph Boyd said higher fees had not changed, but reduced rates previously offered to some groups had been axed. If that's the cost of using the facilities, that's the cost. We are funded by the public purse and we have an obligation to spend that money on the school, he said. Vice Chair of Rue Valley Youth FC, Piers Young, said the club had also been refused a discount offered to large groups. As a community group, we feel really let down by the Free School, he said. During the planning stages for their new building, it was highlighted the area was among the most deprived in the country, and that was one of the reasons the location was chosen. Raising of costs for the facilities we have used for so many years, to the point our children have been forced to leave, feels like an attack on the very target group the school claimed to be aiming at. The Island Free School does not teach football or allow children to play it during break times, which Mr. Boyd said was due to a lack of space. Mr. Young said, "They don't like football at the school. Parents and kids have told us it comes from Mr. Boyd. But we teach them important values like teamwork, respect and problem solving, and how to overcome difficulties." The wider Ventnor community has been hugely supportive. St Francis School let us use a pitch. Ventnor Town Council said our youngest players can train in the Old Youth Club Hall, and the Mill Bay has offered to hold a fundraising quiz night. I feel the Free School is trying to drive football away from the kids, which is a shame. Mr. Boyd said there was nothing wrong with football, although he did not follow a team, but said children should have access to a broader range of sports. The Free School offer includes rugby, hockey, cricket, tennis and golf. When asked if the school's decision could be seen as an attack on children who wanted to play football, he said, "The school was set up to be part of this community. Educational outcomes here are drastically lower than elsewhere, and our remit is to meet an educational need." Donations to Rue Valley Youth and Ventnor FC's fundraising appeal for floodlights at Watcombe Bottom can be made at www.gofundme.com/lightingupthecommunity?member 777
A Devon-based company has been appointed to help transform Newport Harbour. Architectural firm K. Elliott will work with the Isle of Wight Council to create regeneration plans for the site. The ambition is to generate economic growth with new homes and improved harbour facilities. Reniera O'Donnell, Assistant Director for Regeneration, said, "K. Elliott has a brilliant track record and huge experience in working on sites like Newport Harbour. This is a big step, as the master plan will not only shape future developments along the quay, but also generate many opportunities to increase footfall and encourage islanders to re-engage with the harbour." A plan is expected to be delivered by April 2019 before it's written into the island plan and promoted to investment partners. Director of K. Elliott, Tanya Griffiths, said, "We're looking forward to working with the team and the community to set out a plan which provides clear development guidelines to encourage the right investment for local needs and the special character of the place. This master plan is an opportunity to visualise and provide a framework for a waterfront reinvigorated by mixed-use development, reinforcing Newport's role as a county town and a visitor destination."
Flying the island flag. The Isle of Wight is up against the big boys as it heads into the 2018 Beautiful South Awards with 3 island hotspots and Visit Isle of Wight on the shortlist. Tom's Eco Lodge, East Afton Farmhouse and Whitecliff Bay Holiday Park have all made the cut. Tom's Eco Lodge is in the glamping business category, while sister property East Afton Farmhouse is nominated in the self-catering accommodation of the year category after only a year of trading. Whitecliff Bay Holiday Park has a shot at gold after being shortlisted for the Camping, Caravanning and Holiday Park or Village of the Year. Will Miles, Managing Director of Visit Isle of Wight, said, "It's great to see the Isle of Wight recognised for its tourism in the Beautiful South Awards, the warm welcome they offer, the high quality of accommodation and the service they provide." Visit Isle of Wight has been shortlisted in the Visitor Information Service of the Year category. Mr. Miles said, "What a day to come to work and find out you've been shortlisted. It's a little bit unexpected, but with the team we've got, not totally." He said the small team see more than 20,000 people each year in the visitor centre and have a wealth of information regarding sustainable travel, where to go and places to see. These are the Tourism South East Awards, so you're including places such as Kent, Berkshire, Surrey and Sussex, and we've been shortlisted. We're playing up there with the serious big boys on this. Chloe Baker, accommodation manager for Tom's Eco Lodge and East Afton Farmhouse, said, "We only started renting East Afton Farmhouse for holidays and weddings 12 months ago, so to get it selected for the Self-Catering Award this quickly is a massive compliment." Away Resorts Operations Director Greg Lashley said, "The Beautiful South Awards are highly regarded in the industry and it is a true honour to be one of the finalists. It means a lot to the team on the park and to the operator as a whole, as it is recognition of all the hard work we have put in across the year to make it the most desirable holiday park on the Isle of Wight. The hopeful candidates will discover the winners on December the 5th at the awards ceremony in Brighton."
A bag full of cannabis with a street value of up to £3,000 was found at the home address of drug dealer Jaser Wilkie, the Isle of Wight Crown Court was told. A green iPhone containing a tick list or deal list with amounts mentioned between £500 and £5,000 was also discovered when police searched the address, as well as a black phone which appeared to be a drugs line. Wilkie of Palance Road, Cowes, admitted an offence of possession with intent to supply cannabis when he appeared for sentence last Thursday. The court was told Wilkie had been spotted by police at the skate park in Park Road, Cowes. Wilkie was seen to be passing something to 2 men, said Kelly Brocklehurst prosecuting. Wilkie tried to flee but was arrested and searched, as was his car, where officers found 2 wraps of cannabis. A search of his home also unearthed drugs and phones, as well as £180 in cash. Representing Wilkie, Adam Norris said his client was trying to move forward with his life following a family tragedy where he'd lost his brother. Recorder Jane Rowley said she took into account his personal circumstances. She said, "It's about time you stepped up to the plate. Your poor parents have been through a lot recently." She jailed him for 12 months, suspended for 2 years, and told him to pay £100 cost.
Action on Ford demanded. Sat-navs send cars into it, 4x4s wash their wheels in it, and vehicles keep getting stuck in it. The many problems surrounding Froglands Ford in Carisbrooke have been raised by residents who would like to preserve the area as a local beauty spot rather than a rat run. Graham Montrose has lived near the ford for 55 years and has seen the problem escalate in recent years. He said, during the first week of September, 7 cars got trapped in the water in just 1 week, and there was at least 1 car a week all through the summer. It's been going on for years, particularly now sat-navs send people that way when they are trying to reach Carisbrooke Castle. The wash from the ford comes down into my garden, and I find bits of plastic from cars, number plates and all sorts of detritus. The 4x4s come through at a great speed as they think it is fun, and they wash their wheels in it after coming off-road, using it like a splash bath, which makes a huge mess. We would like to preserve the ford as a beauty spot and have better signage to warn people about it. We would like the road to be one way, as it is a real rat run. The route is used by equestrians, mums with prams and young children, and it is an accident waiting to happen. There is also an issue with one of the banks. It needs shoring up before it collapses completely. Councillor John Hobart, Isle of Wight Council Ward Member for Carisbrooke and Gunville and Cabinet Member for Environment and Heritage, believes making the lanes one way would encourage even faster traffic speeds. He is pressing for quiet lane status, which should encourage slower speeds and give priority to vulnerable road users. A spokesperson for Island Roads said, "We are aware of some concerns about Froglands Ford, and we have this week carried out a further detailed survey of the site. It appears current issues may be linked to recent deterioration of the ford's base, and we are investigating a solution to address this. We are also happy to take a further look at the signage to ensure motorists drive appropriately at this historic feature."
A ride man grabbed his mother round the neck and demanded back money he'd originally stolen from her, a court heard. Sentencing Daniel Jevons to a 12-month community order, Magistrate Peter Redding said, "We can't say how appalled we are as a bench." Jevons, 26 of Partlands Avenue, admitted theft, assault and criminal damage when he appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Monday. The court was told Jevons' mother had noticed £250 was missing, and she suspected he'd taken the money as he had a drink problem. A friend confirmed the money was in her son's flat, but only £70 was left. A short time later, she received a text from him demanding the money back, or she would be responsible for his murder, the court heard. She was sitting in her back garden when Jevons appeared in a rage, saying, "Give me the money," before grabbing her round the neck. He smashed a window with a rock before his mother gave him the money. Jevons, of previous good character, told police he'd stolen the money for drink and food and to pay a cocaine debt. He added he was very sorry. Representing Jevons, Oscar Vincent said his client's actions had been exceptional, one-off behaviour. He said he continued to receive family support, including from his mother. He said Jevons had also experienced mental health problems. Mr. Vincent said he's paid for the damage, he's significantly reduced his alcohol intake and avoided controlled substances completely. Jevons was also told to pay £85 costs and a surcharge of £85.
Pledge over historic beach huts. Historic railway carriages that have been used as beach huts on St Helens Dover for decades will not be consigned to the scrap heap if the site is redeveloped. The Isle of Wight Council confirmed there have been discussions about redeveloping the area, but said it was aware of and would be mindful of the heritage of the carriages. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway has also noted its interest in taking the carriages for historical preservation and restoration. The issue has been keenly followed by Richard Adams, a holidaymaker who has been visiting the island for 70 years. He told the county press, "These carriages form the longest feature of these historic items in the country and were brought to St Helens by barge some 90 years ago. They have remained on the same site ever since and have survived all weathers, including severe storms. The carriages came off the Metropolitan line, the oldest railway line in Britain, built about 1860. Now they provide a focal point for sailors and owners of boats on into Bembridge Harbour by sea. A council spokesperson said, "The council is aware of the heritage of the railway carriages at St Helens, Dover, and would be mindful of this when putting together any proposal for the future of the site. We are currently in negotiations with the previous leaseholder to take back and directly manage part of the site. While redevelopment has been discussed, no decision has been made about the removal of the railway carriages. Any plans to change the site would require the benefit of planning permission, and at this point public consultation would be undertaken."
Legal action of the dilapidated Ryde Arena is to be initiated by the Isle of Wight Council. The move was announced to campaigners on Saturday, who staged a link around the rink. Figure skaters, synchronised skaters and ice hockey players were joined by crowds of supporters, all campaigning against the closure of Ryde Arena 2 years ago. Campaigners joined hands in solidarity and stood around the closed ice rink to mark 2 years since owners AEW locked the doors. Since then, rink users, families and supporters from throughout the island community have fought to get the rink reopened. Councillor Wayne Whittle told the campaigners the council will be taking legal action, but what this will be has not been revealed. Campaigner Robina Marshall said, "For 2 years now it's sat empty and unused. Our talented skaters and hockey players have had to either give up the sport they love or travel long distances to play and practice on the mainland. Our schools, our young people and the community have lost a valuable amenity. Music lovers have lost an arena, and not only have we lost a venue that once attracted visitors to the island, but a busy tourist route is blighted by an empty building, making a poor impression on our visitors. Our community is being ignored. Our island and its needs have been dismissed as unimportant. We've been ignored for too long."
Book signing. Meet author Josh Barry, who wrote his autobiography using just his nose on an iPad. Josh, who has cerebral palsy, will be signing his book, Adapted, at the County Press Office on Pyle Street, Newport, on Friday, October the 19th from 10 a.m. to noon. It took Josh 9 years to finish the book, which was launched this summer. Josh, of East Cowes, has had considerable success with his writing, despite the unconventional way his words come to life. He said, "My cerebral palsy gives me a very unique perspective of the world and was the inspiration behind the creation of this book. This is essentially the book of my life and deals with all aspects of my disability, from coming to terms with my limitations as a man to discussions about how others see me."
A Winford man appeared before Island magistrates last Friday, facing a firearms charge. David Luke Soppit, 45, of Forest Way, is accused of possession of an imitation firearm on October 4th and a further offence of drink driving. Mr. Soppit did not enter pleas and the case was adjourned until November 5th. He was remanded in custody. Well, that concludes the first part of your talking newspaper for today. So it's goodbye, best wishes from Howard.
And goodbye from Madeline.
Good morning. Here we are again with Weekender, and I'm Sarah.
And I'm Paul, and I'm going to start with letters. This is a letter from Valerie Taylor, Chairman of the Isle of Wight Branch, Society of Local Council Clerks. Bullying of council clerks not acceptable. A column written by Councillor Jonathan Young, who is also Vice Chairman of the Knighton Parish Council, in the County Press the 5th of October, missed out a paragraph from a private email that was sent to branch members of the Isle of Wight Society of Local Parish Clerks. What was said was, "It is a problem that Society of Local Council Clerks and National Association of Local Councils are talking to the Department of Communities and Local Government about and presenting evidence to support the changes they are asking for, as it is also a national problem. Monitoring offices are next to useless. Since the Standards Board was abolished, this has been a major national problem. hence the talks at national level with the government. The Ledbury case has led to injustice as town and parish clerks have not got the protection that any other ordinary employee have against their employer when they are experiencing bullying in the workplace. Anyone employed outside of town or parish can take out a grievance or ask for their bullying at work policy to be implemented. But as there are no worthwhile sanctions that have been given out by a monitoring officer on behalf of clerks in the same situation, except for an apology or training is advised, and as they have no teeth, but nothing can be done against the perpetrator. Can I correct Councillor Young's impression? I did not thunder about Daniel Faulkner resigning, and at this point would like to thank his chairman, Councillor Brodie, for the support he gave him. The bullying problem has been discussed for well over a year, and we have been collecting a dossier on this for some time to pass over onto our national body.
Here's a letter from S. Meadow in Ryde with the heading, Keep the Heat Off the Street. As we head towards winter and colder weather, with ever-increasing fuel bills, I wonder if we're going to experience the usual appalling waste of energy, with shops keeping their doors wide open. Apparently, footfall takes precedence over this needless waste which we, the customers, no doubt pay for. Even charity shops are often guilty of this. Surely their donations should be used for the purpose for which they were given, not to heat the street.
There's a letter by Terence Fisher, Limmerstone and Villagers of Bryston, left high and dry by Pleasure Trip Firm. As a group of 40 elderly people, we were going to have a trip out on the Waverley steamer last year, and the boat had to make a detour as someone was ill, so we were offered a trip this year instead. When the time came around, we all got together again, but would you believe it, the weather wasn't good and the boat couldn't come in, so it was cancelled again. The company only wanted to pay back a small fraction of the price for this year and nothing for the year before. Part of the money was given as a gift which was collected at my partner's funeral. As pensioners, we can't afford to lose such a chunk of money. Is this the way to treat our pensioners?
A letter from Zoe Redley, again of Ryde, and the headline is, Why don't residents' views matter to planners? I'm confused. How does the Isle of Wight Planning Committee operate? Why is it so inconsistent in its decisions? Recently, as reported in the county press of the 28th of September, the committee refused permission for the roadside inn to be converted into flats on the grounds that the pub was a community asset, although it's been closed for years. On the same day, the same committee approved plans for 140 homes to be built on Rosemary Vineyard site, even though Ryde Town Council, Haven Street, and Ashy Parish Council, plus more than 100 local residents, objected strongly to the development. Let's make this clear, as it wasn't in the county press article. Trotters Riding School is included in this development. In fact, the plans show more homes are sited on the Trotters land, 49 units, than on the other two pieces of land. Sharon Orchard, 46 units, Rosemary Vineyard, 45 units. Trotters and Rosemary Vineyard are both community assets still in use. Also, when contacted, our local councillor told us they were unable to support us in our objections as they had a close relationship with one of the landowners, who incidentally was a councillor up until the planning application was submitted. I thought our councillors were supposed to support us.
There's an article from Mark Burrows at Ventnor. Is Ventnor taking in mainland flotsam? What is happening to our town? It doesn't seem a day goes by lately without police cars and vans on the streets of Ventnor dealing with drug raids, thefts, and now an attack by an axe-wielding man terrorising the staff in our dear little post office. There seems to be an increase of undesirables being dumped in Ventnor. Are they being paid for by inner city councils to get this flotsam off their hands? Every time I go into the chemist, I see queues of druggies waiting for their methadone prescription fix. I see alcoholics staggering around the town at 10 a.m. I can't go on the buses without hoodies openly drug dealing on their mobiles. Ventnor has enough problems with dog and pigeon poo on our streets without the humankind. Thankfully, we still have a police force, but for how much longer?
The headline is Lower Prices Have Breathed New Life into Seaview, and this is a letter from Harriet Hadfield, partly of Seaview. Regarding your story, which was Still Think Seaview Has the Fanciest Houses, which was in the County Press the 3rd of the 10th, Seaview became massively overinflated in the boom times when people could afford to spend hundreds of thousands, millions even, on second homes. My generation absolutely can't afford to. I only know of one holiday family of my age who own in Seaview. The rest of us stay with our parents, many of whom have now retired to the village. Its excellent prices have dropped, making it much more accessible for those who want to actually live there. You only have to look at the thriving new village community shop to see how Seaview is coming back to life all year round.
There's a letter from Anne Jenkins in Sandown. Military College did the trick. My usual columns to say a huge thank you to the Military Preparation College, MPC, at Ryde Academy for the discipline, education, opportunities afforded their students at this establishment. My grandson attends this college and has found it to be his salvation, as previous schools have not been able to instil him with the necessary drive and initiative to compete in today's world. However, the MPC has been able to do just that. The college is not just for preparing students for military service, but to assist in the transformation from childhood to adulthood and prepare them for entry into the working world with confidence. The college has attained an excellent Ofsted report in all areas to add to their credentials. So once again I thank them and wish them continued success.
Here's a letter from Christopher Offer in Brading. Headline is, I could have sourced cameras at better price. And he starts off his letter with, is it just me? According to an item I watched on BBC South Today, Isle of Wight Council is to provide its parking officers with body-worn cameras. So far, fair enough. Having myself worked in the front line of law enforcement, I accept, of course, that officer safety is paramount. We were then informed that 20 cameras are to be purchased at a cost of £17,000. That is to say, cost borne by the council taxpayer, of course. According to my dodgy maths, that's £850 each unit. Apparently, officers have been attacked 60 times in the last 2 years, which of course is appalling. Cameras will undoubtedly act as a deterrent and help to gather evidence. I am aware the Reveal RS2X2 camera featured is a good piece of kit. But in these times of austerity, even if we are assured they're about to come to an end, is such high expenditure really justified when cameras can be purchased from about 1/10 of that price? If it is considered that only the RS2X2 will do, with about 4 clicks of the mouse, I discovered I can buy one direct from the manufacturer for £449 plus VAT, and volume discounts are available according to their website. Well, answers please, Isle of Wight Council.
We change track now. We're going to looking back. 100 years ago, October the 12th, 1918, an island petty officer, P.O. Binstead, returned to Isle of Wight shores from German captivity. One of the naval brigade, he was captured 4 years previously from the train that crashed in Belgium. He was taken with 900 others to a Roman Catholic church, and he said the abuse the Germans made of the place was shameful. Also, the same year, the Ministry of Food appealed to the public to exercise greater care in the consumption of bread. It said the more imports that are saved, the more American troops can help win the war. The public will have itself to blame if bread is rationed.
75 years ago, a Royal Artillery gunner died after receiving serious injuries in a road accident along Brading Down. The 33-year-old single man was riding a motorcycle along the road at nightfall when he collided with a military truck. Also 75 years ago, members of the Isle of Wight branch of the National Farmers Union proudly claimed, "What we do today, the nation does tomorrow." Many of the initiatives pushed by the island branch, such as Lend-Lease, a scheme where the best possible use of farm machinery was made on a cooperative basis, were later mirrored by the nation.
And now we move to 50 years ago, October the 5th, 1968. The Isle of Wight Townswomen's Guilds met for a one-day school and exhibition on human rights. Chairman of the Isle of Wight Federation, Mrs. Webster, reminded the group that 1968 was Human Rights Year. Speakers from the University of Southampton's Law Department talked about how it was launched to make the UN Declaration on Human Rights more widely known. And also, the preliminary plans to turn Ventnor's Royal National Hospital into a recreational and sports centre were revealed by the Council's engineer and surveyor. Members and officers of Bognor Regis Council visited and shared ideas on development proposals. One member told the county press they thoroughly enjoyed their visit and the site had great potential.
25 years ago, Newport Town Centre ground to a halt for more than an hour when floods caused chaos on a busy Saturday afternoon. A short, sharp spell of heavy rain took the town by surprise. Cars came to a standstill along the high street and some shops had to close. A highways maintenance engineer said the level of water in the high street was so bad at one stage, traffic couldn't move. Also 25 years ago in October, Princess Anne joined in the 21st anniversary celebrations of the Isle of Wight group of the Riding for the Disabled Association. The Princess met civic dignitaries and Isle of Wight group members before watching young riders from St Catherine's School, Medina House and Watergate School. A member said it was the biggest ever event for the association.
We now move closer to date, 10 years ago, October the 10th, 2008. The staggering cost of the island's obesity epidemic was revealed. The county press reported it cost £41.9 million nationally to treat and deal with the overweight and obese. Local health chiefs made a national drive to make Britain healthier, pointing to the huge cost of treatment and special equipment to deal with the overweight. And also, 10 years ago, 11 employees, including a woman who had worked for the company for nearly 30 years, were locked out of their workplace. The Isle of Wight branch of LS UK was shut down over the weekend after the chain went into administration. Staff turned up for work to find the locks changed.
Over to Wight memories. Boat builders' war effort. As Remembrance Day nears, these pictures from Woodnuts Boat Builders in St Helens have been shared with the county press. There were 200 people employed at Woodnuts during the Second World War, making the village boatyard an important contractor for the War Office. The boat builders of St Helens built mainly Fairmile class patrol boats for the Admiralty and airborne lifeboats for rescuing RAF crew who ditched into the sea. The yard was first opened by Barney Woodnut in 1853, and his son John Henry Woodnut expanded the yard from 1885. Alfred Westmacott followed in 1905, and his family, including his stepson Alec Mellor, ran the yard during and after the Second World War. As a designer, Alfred Westmacott is today remembered for his day boats, the X-Boat, the Seaview Mermaid, the Bembridge One Design and the Sunbeam, but Woodnuts turned out many other craft, including electric and steam launches and large cruising yachts. All the pictures are from the collection of Cecil Dyer, called Bilko, a descendant of Barney Woodnut. He is a member of St Helens Historical Society and worked at Woodnuts for many years.
We're now another Wight Memories article by a lady called Yvonne Prowse. My first job, life at Island Creameries. Back in the 1950s, leaving school and obtaining a job presented very few difficulties. For the boys, there was John Samuel White's shipyard and plane makers Saunders Row. It was a time we had an island-wide rail network, and those three employers alone would have provided close to 3,000 jobs. For the girls, there were numerous independent shops such as DeBell's, Marder's and Spanner's, as well as the Tobacconist Rugs, which had 6 Newport shops. In Forest Road there was a J. Arthur Dixon which made greeting cards, and if you didn't mind working in dark you could become an usherette at one of Newport's 3 cinemas. When Yvonne Prowse, nee Rouse, left Nose Hill Girls' School in 1953, she was interviewed and obtained a job at what was then Island Creameries near Westminster Mill. She stayed for 4 years, during which time she described her duties as being a switchboard operator, office clerk, dealing with the local farmers and the firm's general dog's body. That included a daily walk to nearby Ray's to obtain cakes and sausage rolls for all the staff's mid-morning break. All this for £2 a week, working from 9 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. At this time, all the local farmers sent their milk to the creameries where it was treated and bottled, the excess being sent off in a large Wincanton lorries to the mainland. However, milk was not the only product to be handled at these premises, as butter, powdered milk and clotted cream were made there too. Strangely, not cheese. One thing Yvonne remembered caused her great difficulty in those early days was dealing with all the farmers who came into her office. She stated their island dialects were so broad she had great problems understanding them. People she recalled working there at the time, all now deceased, were manager Mr. Rasmussen, Sid Jones, who was the factory manager, and Mrs. Rich, who made the butter. A lady whom she recalled patting the butter into shape with 2 wooden paddles. The noise that came from the factory was deafening, milk churns being rolled along and their tops being removed plus the clanking of milk crates and bottles. Another character who was employed there was a man known as Ivor, who later made himself famous locally as the Echo newspaper salesman, who stood underneath the county club arches, a man whose cries of evening echo, beg your pardon, would have been heard all over Newport. Asked if there were any perks with the job, she stated she got a free pint of milk each day. The annual Christmas party was always held in the Queen's Hall.
Each year at this time, the local butchers played an annual football match against the local grocers to raise money for the Home for the Blind at Polar's in Staplers. Each year a celebrity was invited to undertake the kick-off of the match, and a man known as the radio doctor Charles Hill undertook the task one year, to be followed by the actor Bruce Seaton, who became famous on early television as Inspector Fabian of Scotland Yard. On the occasion this gentleman performed the task, Yvonne was chosen by her employer to dress up as the dairyman's daughter and hand him a carnation buttonhole. After 4 years, Yvonne moved on to become cashier for local butcher Wooldridge, whose shop was next door to Post Office Lane. The butchers working there at the time included manager Sid Barton, George Chatwin, who later had his own shop in Note Hill, and apprentice Derek Coupland. The perks of the job here, besides the occasional joint of meat, was that of having a half day off each Thursday and Saturday. Business was determined by a set routine. Monday was pig killing day. Tuesdays, the butchers cut up the carcasses ready for a surge in business on Wednesday, when there would be queues outside the shop to purchase pork pies, rolls and the famous chitterlings, a real delicacy when smothered in mustard. Yvonne's job came about when it was forbidden for the butchers to handle both meat and coins at the same time. In addition, the public would pay into the shop's Christmas club each week in order to ease the burden of finding all the money at one time at Christmas. It was a time when competition was great, for there were probably more than 20 other small butchers' shops in the town, so tying your customers' money into your business was very important. Today, if supermarkets are ignored, we have just one independent butcher, that of Downers in Lower St James Street. Yvonne described being extremely happy in both jobs, where contact with the public was part of her daily task. Now, if you have memories to share about your first job from years gone by, get in touch with James Woolvin on 259053.
Well, we now change to My View, the first of 2 articles by columnists. This is The Lost Art of Real Communication by Rebecca Roncoroni. When I was a little girl, telephones were not a commonplace household item. I remember there was one on the farm my father managed, and we were allowed to make personal telephone calls as long as the calls were timed to the second on a stop clock provided next to the telephone and entered into a logbook. Woe betide anyone who made a call without properly logging it. The farm secretary put on her Inspector Poirot hat and they'd be hell to pay. Later we had a phone in our house which was an extension of the farm phone. It was somewhat disconcerting to pick up the receiver to find a stranger talking on the other end, but we lived with it. I can remember my mum being delighted that it cost the equivalent of 2p for a 10-minute conversation with her mate. My father could never understand what she had to talk about for so long. Nothing changes. Especially as her mate lived just up the road. The anguish as a teenager waiting for that boy to call. Hoovering over the phone, willing it to ring, picking the receiver up to check there was still a line, panicking when someone took or made a call. At latest crush would have been trying to get through and given up. My father's unsympathetic. You'll see him at school tomorrow. What are you worrying about? My mother's whatever you do, you mustn't call him. Men like the chase. And other such dated nonsense our innocent heads were filled with in the 70s and 80s. I remember my mother saying solemnly, "Why would a man buy the whole cow if he gets the milk for free?" Years later someone said, "Why would a woman buy a whole pig when she gets the sausages for free?" But I digress. Today there's never been more ways to communicate with one another. Conversely, there's never been more ways to reject someone. Lovelorn teenagers can not only be rejected or iced out by post and landline. There's email, mobile, text message, messenger, Skype, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. On nearly all these mediums it's possible to see if someone is online, if the message has been delivered, if they've read it, the agony of the non-response. I don't envy young people that at all. In many ways the business world is just the same. Most companies now have websites where you can contact them via email, but you can't telephone them. This is all very well if you have a straightforward query, but what if you need to talk to someone? Even if they have a customer services telephone number, the chances are exceedingly high you're going to be put into some kind of hold-in hell, to told repeatedly via recorded message your call is very important to them, that their website is www.blah-de-blah-de-blah, you are 15th in the queue, and when you finally manage to speak to a human, you're going to be speaking to the wrong person and be put back into hold-in limbo. Despite all the advances in communications technology, society loses something when we forget the importance of talking to one another in real life. Digital communication can never replace in-person, in real-time contact, building relationships both personal and professional. Technology can be a wonderful tool, but it is communication at a distance, edited to the communicator's wishes. Digital communication is the poor relation of reaching out and connecting with each other compared to picking up the telephone or actually meeting up for a cuppa in real life. We forget this at our peril.
And an article by Malcolm Mime with the headline, "Is Education Policy Still on Track?" When I was previously with you 4 weeks ago, I reported on the current situation regarding the Ofsted ratings of the island schools in relation to the pre-election promise made by local Tory leader Councillor Dave Stewart. I reminded readers of Mr Stewart's pre-election pledge to get 25% of island schools to an Ofsted rating of outstanding by 2021, and reported that at present only one, that's 2%, of the island's 51 schools has such a rating. Following the publication of my article, it crossed my mind Mr Stewart might contact the county press to confess he had been naive to make such a pledge, and he hoped any voters who may have voted for him or his party on the back of the promise would forgive him. Such a confession would have gone a long way to laying to rest any thoughts people might currently be having that Mr Stewart's pledge was made just to win votes. We all still vividly remember David Pugh's very false pre-election vote-winning promise of 2009 to get the island schools into the top 10% in the country. It ended up costing him his job. However, rather than Mr Stewart responding to my article with a confession and an apology, what we got instead were letters to the county press from Councillor Paul Brading, who's the current Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Skills, and our Tory MP, Captain Bob Seeley, attacking little old me. Councillor Brading's letter, which was published in the county press on the 21st of September, stated I should be simply ignored, with him adding, I know little of the substantial improvements this Conservative administration has made to education. He finished his letter by stating that I was misinformed. With regard to Mr. Brading's comment, I know little of the improvements. He obviously missed the part of my article where I specifically name-checked the likes of Sarah Hussey, Catherine Marshall, Caroline Slice and Rachel Kitley, all head teachers who have produced good results. Granted, I didn't put the success of those schools down to the Conservative administration. I put it down to good teaching, just as Ofsted has. The second paragraph of Councillor Brading's letter started with the words, "The truth is," which are words in my experience when delivered by a politician at least, are usually anything but the truth. In this instant, Councillor Brading's "the truth is" was followed by a claim that Tory Council are well on track to deliver our goal of all schools rated by Ofsted as good or outstanding by 2021. The grade given to Christ the King School, Christ the King College, only last week of inadequate, which was down from good, makes Councillor Brading's on-track claim look a little hollow. But even putting that aside, Councillor Brading seems to have got himself a little confused as to what my article of last month was actually about. It wasn't about the Tories' basic goals of getting all schools to a rating of good. It was about that much bigger goal we were promised by Mr. Stewart, that 25% of schools would reach an Ofsted level of outstanding. Or maybe this is what Councillor Brading means when he says I'm misinformed. Maybe all of the Island news outlets who reported Mr. Stewart's pledge of aiming to get 25% of our schools to a rating of outstanding were all lying. Perhaps we've been fed the infamous fake news we keep hearing about. I guess the only way you can clear this up is by Councillor Brading, or indeed Councillor Stewart, letting us know the answer to this simple question. Is the 25% goal I was reporting on last month still in place, or is it not? Island voters need to know. I wonder why Councillor Brading wanted me to be ignored.
We're each going to read out a few what's on items now. Action on hearing loss will be at Newport Methodist Church, Key Street, between 10 a.m. and noon on Tuesday for its monthly drop-in. Go along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. For more information, call 529 533. Brading Community Choir meets at St Mary's Church Hall, High Street, Brading, on Tuesday from 7:15 to 8:45. All abilities and ages welcome. Under 18s must be accompanied. There's no audition, just turn up and sing. Action on hearing loss will be at Bembridge Methodist Church, Forelands Road, between 10 a.m. and noon on Tuesday, and at Ryde Methodist Church, Garfield Road, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. next Friday, October the 19th. For the monthly drop-in and coffee mornings, go along for advice, batteries and cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. The group will also be holding cake sales at both events to raise funds for its befriending service. Same phone number as earlier, 529 533. And lastly from me, all adults over 16 with any disability are welcome to go along every Saturday night to the New Strollers Club. It is alcohol free, There is dancing, table tennis, darts, pool, karaoke, board games, movie nights and a snack bar with cold drinks, tea and coffee. It is at Haylands Farm from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Membership is free and £2 subs per week. Just turn up or telephone Dave on 07890 670009. If you are interested in playing in the disability football team, it is also free to join.
Just to add to what Paul said, Action on Hearing Loss will be at Wootton Community Centre, Brannan Way, Wootton Bridge. This is on Thursday between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. for the monthly drop-in. It's the usual advice and information. You can go along to have your to get batteries and cleaning and so on of NHS hearing aids. And again, the telephone number is 529 533 and no appointment is necessary. Also, there is going to be Newport Scrabble Club. It now meets in the Conservative Club, Pyle Street. This is every Tuesday at 6:45 for a 7 p.m. start. All abilities welcome, and your first 4 evenings are free of charge. News of the Elephant Club, a free group activity designed to exercise the memory muscles, which is held in the garden room at All Saints Church, Gurnard, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Thursday. Tea, coffee, biscuits and friendly faces to welcome you.
Right, finish up with some miscellaneous news items. Villagers suffer from roadworks headache. The long and winding road out of St Lawrence has been made easier for residents following several days of roadworks. Residents have endured a series of road closures, but the St Lawrence chute is now open. With the Undercliff Road to Knighton shut off for years, the only way out has been through Ventnor or up the narrow St Lawrence chute to Whitwell. The county press has been told a coach tried to navigate the chute on Sunday, September 30th, and a resulting crash caused damage to the disused railway bridge. This destabilised the road and emergency road closure was put in place by Island Roads. Historic Railway Estate, on behalf of the Department for Transport, carried out emergency works throughout the past week and finished the job on Tuesday. The work coincided with resurfacing Park Avenue and Steep Hill Road, Ventnor, which meant it was not a direct route out that way either. Local resident Joan Pound said, "We all driving round all the houses to get anywhere."
And the last piece of information, this is about Shanklin Community Library, which runs its Keep Calm and Carry On Sewing session every Wednesday between 10 a.m. and noon, and a calming colouring club on Fridays from 1:45. All welcome, with both sessions offering refreshments for a small donation. And that's all for today from Sarah
and from Paul.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter Wight. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Tonight, the long-promised, long-delayed electronic braille machine costing hundreds rather than thousands of pounds is finally with us. So, has it been worth waiting for? And there's also positive news of another holy grail, the ability to treat some eye conditions by injecting missing genes into the eyes is coming closer.
Diseases that I was taught during my training were incurable and never would be, are now potentially treatable with the new technology that they've got.
We'll be hearing more from the man who's leading that research and someone who's been on one of its trials. But first, machines which produce electronic braille have been with us for some time now. They act both as note takers and reading machines. They enable us to read a far wider range of books and documents than ever before, and write material for ourselves which can be transferred into print for friends and work colleagues. The problem has been that until now they've been very expensive, costing somewhere between £2,000 and £4,000, putting them out of reach of many Braille readers. But back in early 2016 on this programme, we were assured that a far cheaper model would be with us within months, the result of cooperation between visual impairment agencies throughout the world, with the RNIB taking a leading role. Then it all suddenly went very quiet. And although the Orbit 20 was being made available in other parts of the world, no sign of it here. Well, finally, it has arrived, and not simply on the market, but here in front of me on the table. I've actually got one here, and I've just switched from my hard copy paper Braille script to the Orbit 20, which is making an interesting grasshopper-like noise. I have to say it's neat, small, it's about 6 inches by 4 roughly, with comfortable Braille, fits nicely under the finger. Maybe the lines are rather too short for reading a radio script, which is why I'm a little bit hesitant, but that might come. And also fine, I'd say, for reading notes or short documents. I'll go back to the paper script now, if you'll forgive me. It does come in for visually impaired users at around £400. Well, in a moment, we'll be hearing from a user better qualified than me who's been assessing its performance. But first, I asked RNIB Services Director David Clark, why have we had to wait so long?
There were some production delays. It was absolutely our original intention to launch this much earlier, but I think what we were really conscious of is to have a product that was actually fit for market.
But it has been available in other parts of the world, USA, New Zealand, and it does seem odd since, we were led to believe at the beginning of all this, the RNIB was a big player in bringing it to market. So how come it's got to market here later than everywhere else?
Well, as I said, we wanted to make sure it was a product that was fit for market. I think you're absolutely right. For example, in the USA, the product did launch much earlier, but shortly after launch had a product recall, and we were absolutely definite in our minds that we didn't want anything like that happening. We wanted to continue the consumer testing and make sure the product was ready. And we're now satisfied after that testing that it is ready and delighted now to be offering it.
Can you just give us an idea of what the technical problem was?
It was a part that wasn't working properly, which we were very keen to make sure it did. We've now reached that stage, and that's why we're launching it today.
Well, that's some of the history, but what's it like and how does it perform? Jackie Brown is a very experienced user of note takers and Braille readers, and she's been running her fingers over the Orbit Reader 20 for us, and I asked her what she made of it.
I think it's fab, to be honest. I really like it. I think the Braille is very clear. For some people, they may say that it's quite firm, but I actually quite like that because I think it's really nice Braille for reading. It's very clear and sharp, but not uncomfortably so. And I like its compact, sturdy feel. And I like the idea that it pairs up with Bluetooth to your phone if you want to use it with an iPhone or an iPad or an Android device. And you can also use it with your screen reader as well. So it works well with JAWS and NVDA. It's very, it's very nifty. It does keep up with you. It definitely refreshes well enough for I think anybody that reads very quickly. I think it refreshes well. The most important thing for me is that it puts Braille in the hands of more people than could ordinarily afford to buy a Braille display of 4 figures.
And that, of course, is because of price. But people would say you can't produce something at so much less without losing something. What can't you do with it?
The main thing for purists, people who like to use cursor routing buttons, that's a button above every Braille cell so that you can manipulate the cursor. You can't use that.
just to make it clear to people, that's what you would normally use to edit, because you could bring things up in relief and have them exactly where they ought to be so that you can edit. Does that mean you can't edit with it?
You can edit with it, yes, it is feasible to do it, but you just have to, the method of doing it is different. You've got to do something else. For people, it might be a deal breaker. For me personally, it isn't, because it does what it says on the tin. It's a reader. It has an SD card slot, so you can put loads of formatted Braille text on there, and also RNIB have put a selection of books, classics and other things on an SD card to get you started.
That's the hardware. Do you have any other concerns?
My only concern is how well it will be supported by RNIB, given the fact that if it needs to go back, if there's a problem with a dot or there's something that it's not doing, or a customer needs help with setting it up perhaps, or pairing with their iPhone, because I think this will be quite a popular device. And as I said before, put Braille in the hands of a lot more people. I really just hope that the support will be available.
Jackie Brown talking to us from her home just outside Belfast. David Clark, we will come back to a question of support. But first of all, who is the Orbit Reader 20 really aimed at?
Well, I think the original intention of the Transforming Braille group was to create a low-cost device that opened this up to a much wider market of people who simply couldn't afford the much more expensive products. And I think that's what we've achieved. There's currently 20,000 people reading Braille, as we understand it at the moment, for whom we hope as many people as possible will be opened up to be able to access Braille on this device. And I think it was really lovely, and I have to say exciting, to hear Jackie talking about the various ways in which that's possible.
Some of the people who could benefit from this aren't as tech savvy. So what about Jackie's point about support, both at the point of buying it and, of course, when, little things start to go wrong?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important point she raises, and frankly, it's my job to make sure that this happens. We see ourselves as a bespoke retailer in this kind of area of the market, and it's really important that we provide customers and users with a really good level of service. We have our Tech for Life team who are more than happy to talk about this stuff over the phone, but we also have an army of volunteers who will be prepared to work with people to support them with this device.
Because that really is important, isn't it? But for blind people, quite often trying to do stuff over the phone is just not good enough. You need somebody with you, you need hands-on, you need to be able to... Are you really going to be able to do that?
Jackie referred to the fact that she thinks this is going to be a very popular device, and we've committed to buying 2,000 of these devices, so we believe it's going to be very popular too. But I think she raises a really valid point in that the actual support that people need is essential, and I will be, as I say, responsible for that and making sure that it happens.
Well, we might have to hold your feet to the fire if there's a problem about that.
You're very welcome to, Peter.
Because people will care about that.
Yeah.
There are a number of commercial readers and note takers available, of course. What do you think will be the effect on them of a much cheaper product? Will they be driven out of business?
Well, that's certainly not our intention. I think that this has been a terribly useful experiment in disruptive behaviour, and I think you're already seeing a reduction in prices right across the piece.
You mean disruptive in the sense that it is designed to force the price down?
Well, I was our specific intention to make a cheaper version of it, and I think if our actions on a global basis that's achieved this encourages others to look at their devices and find ways in which to bring their own prices down without compromising on major features of the device, I think that's a good thing.
I imagine the RNIB have had to put quite a lot of money into this project. Are you going to get that money back?
I sincerely hope so. This is not a profit-making exercise in any way by the RNIB. We put $250,000 in from the start in a budget of $1.25 million to get this project underway, and then the price has been set to ensure cost recovery, but no more. And we're very, very hopeful that our stock will very quickly move off the shelves, and then we can consider what extra orders we make.
That's David Clark, Services Director at the RNIB. Well, today we've also got news of what looks like real progress on the medical front. A number of eye conditions are caused by faulty or missing genes, and the hope has been growing that those genes can be replaced by effective ones. In one specific set of trials, a rare form of blindness called choroideremia, has been treated by an injection into the back of the eye with the gene that's missing. Initial results have been encouraging. Joe Pepper is one of the small number who've been on the trial, and he told me more about his condition.
I suffer from a condition called choroideremia. It's not that easy to say, but basically what it gives you is a gradual deterioration of your sight, and that will ultimately lead to blindness eventually.
Have you been losing sight as you've grown older?
So I'm 26 now. From about the age of 10, there's been a gradual decline in sight loss, particularly from kind of the age of 16 onwards. That then adds that element of kind of real worry and anxiety. You're losing your sight, but there's no real hope of that ever stopping. I quite often describe it as you're kind of constantly going through grief. You're losing something which you really don't have any control over losing.
And explain what's happened and what's been the effect of the treatment that you've had.
I had an injection in the back of the eye which essentially gave the cells back the gene that it never had. It's basically guaranteed that I will never lose my sight, and also it's given me a bit of vision back in my right eye. It's the equivalent to 4 lines on an eye chart. Many people won't grasp that when you're sitting there and you're contemplating in your teenage years and in your early 20s and you wake up in panic attacks and having just dreamt of just pure blackness, to just have that weight totally removed, it has changed my life unimaginably. People want more. Our society is all about wanting this and wanting that. I'm just exceptionally happy with the sight that I've got, and I now know that that's the sight that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Me and my parents were, when I was 9 years old and I was told that I had this condition which no one can really say, and I was told that maybe in 20 or 30 years there might be something. 15 years down the line, I'm sitting with sight that isn't going to change. That is phenomenal. I can move about, when the dusk is coming in. I can function. The kids at my school, I'm a school teacher, I can mark their work with ease. I can read their work. I can plan lessons. I can see my friends. All the things that actually we just take for granted, I can do, and I never have to worry about not doing them ever again.
Joe Pepper. Well, now the team has produced a more detailed report on the progress they've made. The research has been led at Oxford Eye Hospital by Professor Robert McLaren, and he told me a bit more about Joe's condition.
Well, choroideremia is part of a spectrum of diseases under the banner of inherited retinal degenerations. These are genetic conditions that cause blindness. The development of gene therapy is a new approach that enables us to insert the correct gene back into the cells of the retina and therefore slow down or prevent the degeneration from progressing. A gene therapy treatment, Luxturna, has been approved in principle by the European Medicines Agency for the first time for retinal degeneration, and that was last month. So we are, I think, in an era now where we're moving from science and research into genuine treatments for patients. If we get the dose right at the beginning, and if we intervene early enough whilst we can still rescue the cells, we would expect it to have a lifelong effect.
How much improvement in sight are we talking about?
We're looking at improvements in the central vision, a sharpening of the vision, what we call visual acuity. But ideally, we would like to intervene in the disease much earlier on, before they lose their vision, so that we can preserve the visual field.
So if you could put that in terms perhaps that people could visualise, can you give me an example of what perhaps somebody would have been able to see and what they could see now?
Yes, so if you imagine if you're looking through a telescope, and the telescope is not focused correctly in the distance. What we've done is we've focused the telescope by improving the clarity of the vision in the centre. But what we haven't done is we haven't brought back the cells in the peripheral vision. You're still looking through a telescope. It certainly has been life-changing for some of the patients in the trial because they've told me so. We are currently in a phase 3 clinical trial, which is international, involving several different countries and patients around the world, in order to get approval for the drug or the virus as a treatment. Once it's approved as a treatment, obviously we'll be in a position to be able to treat people and give them some reassurances. So it's a very exciting time at the moment in gene therapy. Diseases that I was taught during my training were incurable and never would be, are now potentially treatable with the new technology that they've got.
I know you try to resist exaggerating claims for what you can do, but how much of a breakthrough is this, do you think?
Well, I think the breakthrough is at two levels. There is the scientific breakthrough of showing a long-lasting effect following the gene therapy, and I think everyone would agree that this is something which we predicted based on the laboratory studies, but we still needed to prove was the case in humans. And the second thing, I guess, is the ability to take a rare single gene disorder and develop a research program that then becomes commercialized, if you like, as part of a spin-out in order to develop a treatment in a trial that includes many countries around the world. One of the problems with rare diseases is that there are very few patients. It's very difficult to get companies interested in the treatment. But we've been able to do that as well with the choroideremia program based on the very successful results we've had in the early phase studies. There are now over 200 patients in the trial across many countries in the EU and North America.
And how do people, you obviously get to know these patients, how do patients react to what's happened?
Generally, the initial results are that the vision goes down because the patients are recovering from an operation that requires retinal detachment and some other procedures at the back of the eye. But usually the vision comes back to normal around about 1 to 2 weeks. And then between the sort of 2 and 4 week period, they may notice improvements in their night vision, or some patients report improvements in their colour vision. Some patients don't really notice much difference at all, but you've got to bear in mind the reason for giving the gene therapy is to prevent further retinal degeneration. So it's through following these patients for many, many years, we've discovered that the initial improvements that they described have been sustained.
But maybe not the kind of eureka moment that perhaps some people would like to imagine.
Well, I'm not sure about that, because although the operation itself is quite challenging and obviously quite stressful for the patients, I think the eureka moment is when they come into the clinic having been told for the lifelong that they've got a disease that is incurable, nothing can be done, to then suddenly be recruited into a trial for a potential treatment. That, I think, that process is the eureka moment for many of these people.
So perhaps there's also a sense that they're doing something for the whole group of people who've got the condition.
Exactly. I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. A lot of my patients know that they've lost most of their vision, but by contributing to a research study and helping in a trial for others, particularly people who may be in their family, for instance, grandsons of some of the patients who are affected, have also got the early diagnosis. They know that they can help them as well by being in the trial. The patients obviously help us, but ultimately we can't do the trial without patients who are volunteers, and we remain extremely grateful to them for coming forward and helping us with these studies.
That's Professor Robert McLaren. And that's it for today. We always welcome your queries and your comments. You can call our action line for 24 hours after tonight's programme on 0800 044 044. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, or you can click on Contact Us on our website. And you can also download tonight's and other editions of In Touch from there. That's it from me, Peter Wight, producer Kevin Corr and the team. Goodbye.